there, welcome back. This is the video like last week's Zardoz where it's like, okay, I'm going to this video wondering what the hell I'm going to say about this one. This is Southland Tales, the canned cut. Now, it's now available on Southland Tales Arrow version. You get 2 discs, you get the original theatrical cut, and you get the canned cut. Now, the canned cut is a notorious cut of the film that happened when the film was more or less complete, but they needed some effects work done, but they'd run out of money. So they took it to cans in a 2-hour 40 version, and hoping that the film would get interest for being strange and interesting, and they'd find more money from the distributors to actually finish the special effects off and just finesse the film. Because this was like a $17 million film when it should have been like a $50 million film. It was so much more ambitious than they had the money for, but they made the film anyway. And the film was loathed. It was one of those special cases, kind of like Dennis Hopper, the last movie. And, you know, there's always these canned stories of films that go out there and get absolutely hammered. And, I mean, cans, if they like your film, it can be great, but if they hate it, it's pretty brutal. They can be cruel. And a lot of time it turns out they're cruel to films they shouldn't be cruel to. Sometimes they glorify films that are not that unique, that are not as amazing as they think they are. And then there's other films, some weird films that they could have done with their help, like this one. It's not a perfect film in any way, but it's an interesting, weird film, and it deserved better than what it got. This film got absolutely hammered in Cannes. It got destroyed. So after Cannes, had to go and cut it down from 38 minutes, from 2:38 to about 2:25. So they lost some running time, they got more effects added, but Richard Kelly, the director, didn't really feel the film was even finished, even in the theatrical release. It was still done, the effects weren't quite right. It was the best he could do on the budget, really. So he had to kind of live with that, and then the film just bombed, instantly bombed. No one wanted it. It came out during a strike, so none of the actors could promote it, which did not help. When you've got The Rock as your star and he can't go out and promote it, it's a problem. This is a film with The Rock in it, and it's Michelle Gellar, Sean, what do you call him? Sean Will Scott. All actors who could put together a film. Richard Kelly, after Donnie Darko, still couldn't sell it. It was that hated and canned. His reputation. It was like this thing. It was like they were after this film. They were going to get this guy because to America to actually made a successful film and thrown up a weird film, and it was like, no, we're going to get you. So he gets Soderbergh to hell because Soderbergh made Kafka the second film and it get crucified. And this was another example of that sophomore slump. And in both cases, the films are not perfect, but they're interesting. So, this was an interesting tale of a film that got absolutely hammered and destroyed because it was weird. Now, I should say that basically, I think the canned cut's a better version of the film than the theatrical cut. It breathes more. The theatrical cut, it comes across as a bit grating, especially early on. They've got all these plots working out, and they've tried to cut it down to be a reasonable run time, which means the plot's great, and the political stuff is a bit obvious. And it doesn't have time to breathe in the early part, so you feel you've been lectured to. And that creates this aggravation at the film that I think really hurts the film. The canned cut, it is longer, but there's much less of that. You actually feel there's some space. Like, you're introduced to the characters, but they're not forcing them on you. And you have a time to work out, okay, who they are. Because a lot of them aren't that bright. Some of them are smart, but some of them aren't, and a lot of them are corrupt, and you get an idea of who they are, but it becomes a lot less judgmental and grating to you as you're watching this story in the canned cut. So I'd much rather watch a canned cut, even with the bad special effects. It's a better version of the film. It just feels more natural, and because I try to watch I had it in Blu-ray, so I watched a couple of minutes of the theatrical early part, and it was like, it feels much more in your face, and it feels much more like try to punch in your face, and it just feels too much. And you can tell why it's got that reputation. It's a bit shrill and a bit, you know, why are you going this far? Do you think we're stupid? That's the big problem with the theatrical cut, even though I've watched it for a while, is it does feel like it's lecturing a little bit. The can cut, it doesn't in the same way. Because it just has a bit more space, you get to know the people, you get to realise it's a left-wing film. It's a weird sci-fi left-wing film. It's a very much a weirdo film that not everyone's going to like, but it's not grating. It's not like lecturing you and saying you have to listen to me, blah blah blah. It's much more like these are the characters, these are the people, and this is the situation. And the situation really is, it's a bunch of characters whose fate interlink with a sci-fi plot that's very influenced by Repo Man. I mean, this film is very influenced by Repo Man. Repo Man is like its spiritual godfather. It's a lefty, anti-capitalist, film. It's culty sci-fi, and it takes place in LA and has strange lights and, like weird right-wingers all over the place. It's pretty much Repo Man. It's pretty much the most film that's been most inspired by Repo Man is this one. It's like, definitely Richard Kelly watched Repo Man way too much. There's bits of Pulp Fiction feel as well, where you've got all these stories of Venice Beach characters with criminal enterprises all intermingling, but it's much broader because these characters are much less quiet. I mean, some of them are Marxists, some of them are capitalists. They're much more in your face. They're much more performance artists who are mixing out with political agendas that maybe they haven't thought through well enough. So it's much more in your face about these weird characters, and you're probably not going to like them as much as you like the characters in Pulp Fiction. Because they are selfish, they are self-deluded. There is a lot of characters that when they die, you're not that bothered about. But there's a lot of human characters in it as well. I mean, it's grounded by a few of the characters. The Rock plays this movie star who... I mean, you think a movie star would be the least grounded character, but he plays a guy with amnesia who's trying to work out who he is. He's lost his memory. He's written this screenplay, this porn actress who he's now seen. He's walked away from his family, apparently because he doesn't even remember who they are. So that's why he walked away from them. And he's been getting these images in his head that he's writing down. And even though there's manipulation going on, him and this porn actress played by Sister Michelle Gellar, they do have a bond with each other. And they are connected in some way. They have written a script that tells the future and future events that are going to give away the end of the world. Kind of like Donnie Darko, the end of the world, It seems like the end of the world, but it's more of a personal story. You've got Justin Timberlake is this guy who's this veteran of the wars, the foreign wars, and he's back with PTSD, and he's a bit crazy, and he's a bit religious and corrupt and weird, and he was in these action movies, and it's just weird, and he's narrating it all and telling the story of these problems. Then there's Sean William Scott, who's this guy there's two of them, they're twins, and one twin's trying to find the other, and one of the twins is caught up in this conspiracy to show how corrupt the cops are in the area, because he's tied into the Marxists and all these strange people like porn stars and porn producers who have a Marxist agenda, performance artists who think their view of the world is the thing that will redeem the world. You've got all these crazy characters and crazy plots all intermingled, but at the centre you've The Rock as this guy trying to work his life out, and these two twins try to find each other and try to work out what it all means, and they're getting led along this weird path they don't understand. And it's just this weird situation, really. So it is kind of comic booky in a way because it is broad, and you do have a lot of Saturday Night Live actors in there, like Amy Poehler, and a bunch of other ones in there. But you also have like more normal actors there as well, less comedic actors. So you get a nice balance of characters. But a lot of them are broad, a lot of them are cartoonish. But that's part of the charm, because it goes from one to the other. So it's like, yeah, this is a big sci-fi world. It is bigger than life, but it is an alternative 2008 from what we got, where there's a new power supply that's not based on natural fuels. You've also got these people who are the people who created this power supply, they believe that because they're much more lefty and progressive, they think they've got the proper view of how to run the world and blah blah blah. It's like we'll finance the Marxists and stuff, so that because we're the right way to run the world. And then you've got the right wingers who are paranoid and violent and weird, and they think they have the right way to run the world, and these two sides are clashing, trying to manipulate each other. But that's all in the background. So there's so much going on. I mean, I think the first time you watch it, you can get whiplash with this film. It is that kind of film. But I think you much more whiplash watching it in the theatrical cut. I think they can cut. You can watch it as a film and see. It's a bit broad, but that's fine. That's just it. It is very 60s or 70s movie. It's one of those films that we made then, it'd be like, that's a weird film. You know, typical. You know, it is that kind of sci-fi movie where you're not guaranteed a happy ending. Like, it's almost like you know not everyone's going to make it alive. And it does kill people off in brutal ways as they go along. And people try and manipulate each other and get their just desserts as they go along. So it is very influenced also by They Live. This idea of the kind of capitalism, the corruption, and what it does to people, and how people are struggling with the margins, and how the rich don't really care. You do have that feeling of They Live come through that as well. And it is just a wonderfully ambitious film that's very much curious with the way we're living our lives just now. Of course, I say it's curious. It's not naturalistic in any way. I mean, it is broad. I mean, like, you do have the porn star try to set a new business up, and that's why she's involved with The Rock to start with, to try and get money to start a business up that's going to be like pretty much, it was before the internet, but it was about really pretty much having a business internet service. Everything she's trying to do is stuff that people do all the time now on the internet, like online via YouTube and stuff. That's just, so basically this film's talking about that before it actually happened. You know, like having online chats, like podcasts, and having like shops that link to products from the celebrities you like who aren't well known but have a little niche product and stuff like that. I mean, it pretty much predicts Patreon and all the rest of that stuff. It's very much about that. But she needs some startups, that's why she's involved in The Rock, and then she realises The Rock's right and all that stuff. It's really interesting and weird. But she is very broad, and the good thing with Sarah Michelle Gellar in this film is she doesn't try and make herself look smart. She's playing a character who's not that smart, and she plays along. She doesn't try and say, hey, I'm smart in this character. No, she plays it like the character can be dumb with moments of sophistication and depth, but there's a lot of dumbness there as well. And The Rock's character is very nervous, and he's always doing this, and he's playing a movie star, but he's not really an action star. He's trying to be this guy that he's actually not. And he's placed in a lot of situations where he didn't volunteer for it. And he's hilarious in this because he is playing a guy who isn't. He looks a certain way, but he's not actually that way internally. And he is kind of weak. And he is kind of, you know, he's not the hero of this tale. It's really showing him Scott's the hero of the tale as the two brothers try to work it all out. He's really he would normally be the comedy actor, but he's a straight man in this film, so he's the best bit of the film actually. He's really good. Playing a guy trying to work this stuff out, and he's trying to kind of emotionally go through the situation. And the thing is, they're the most dramatic characters, and I think in the theatrical cut they kind of focused on them more, but losing the weird side characters actually made it worse because they were kind of the central characters in a bigger film with lots of characters, but they were the guide through that, and you lose some of the side characters or all the nuances. It flattens those characters out as well, so it's kind of doesn't really kind of work by cutting them down. That's a film that doesn't really work if it's too short. It's just got a certain mood to it that you need to go with, really, or you don't go with. It's just, there is a mood to it. There is something there that's unique and different, and you just have to go with what's there. So there's lots of manipulative characters. There's a lot of people who proclaim they are that one thing, but then when you see them in action, they're something else. Like, some people claim to be like martyrs or something, and they're actually in it for the money. You know, some people are in it for the money, they're in it for money, but they're actually in it for money to actually push their agendas. And then other ones are not quite sure what they're in it for. They're in it for both, and everyone's kind of confused about what they're in it for. Like, every character, from rich or poor, they have their motivations that are odd and strange and weird, and it's just a crazy film about how crazy people's motivations are. And just adding the sci-fi element to it just makes it interesting, but also can make it very frustrating. Like, there are characters led by Wallace Shawn who are straight out of Terry Gilliam. You know, you can see them behind me. They're these strange people who are trying to manipulate the whole thing. They're the ones with the money because they created this new power source that has unfortunate side effects. And they really are straight out of Terry Gilliam, and it is the kind of corrupt side of, even if someone who thinks they have good intentions, how they can easily be corrupted by the situation, by their own ambitions, and by the hatred of their enemies. And like, no one's really pure in this film, like, at all. Everything's flawed, everything's messed up. But that's what's likeable about it. It's a very likeable film, and it is a nice little mess of a film. It's one of those ones that's like, you're never going to say, oh, this is a masterpiece that has been undiscovered. No, it's not. It's a mess. But it's a wonderful mess. It's a really interesting, weird mess. It deserved better than it got, because, I mean, critics should have recognised what it was. You know, it's a political allegory, but it's also a mess. And it's also a sci-fi weird character piece. You know, it's just weird and wonderful and strange, and it's just full of oddities that are a delight. I mean, I really had a lot of fun with this film. It's one of those ones I'd happily watch again without any problem. I do like Richard Kelly. I mean, I think he's quite ambitious as a director. I like Donnie Darko director's cut more than I like the theatrical cut more than the director's cut of Donnie Darko. But I like this one. I like the can cut better than the theatrical cut. So it just varies from one to one. I like the box as well, but the ending's a bit odd. And they wrote Domino with Tony Scott, which I quite like too. So I mean, he's done some stuff I really enjoy. It's just that he's a director kept on making films that bombed, so he's having a hard time finding financing now. Which is a shame, because he's an interesting talent. It's one of those ones, like Shane Carruth, like, why can't, like, Netflix start financing some of the guys' films? They've got all the money. Like, one every year or two as a weird film, you know, or Amazon or something. Why wouldn't they actually finance people like this? These are the people who make interesting films, that make the interesting weird content, but no, they just don't. It's just like, we'll go for the mediocre stuff instead. But it's just a real shame. It really is a shame. I don't want to go any further, because I'm hoping to do a podcast with someone about this at some point, once I've seen the can cut. So I don't want to go fully into it. I just try and explain my initial thoughts of the can cut, really. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back very soon with another video. Right, bye for now.